Oh, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Tab9 Office Hours. I am your host, Chris Good, Director of Product Marketing here at Tab9. Very excited, as always, to be back for another session with you folks. If you're new here, this is a very interactive session, right? So we're going to be doing slides first, and then we'll go through a demo. But at any point, ask any questions that you might have. Ask me to stop. We can hone in on something in particular, and I can even make notes to show something specific within the demo section. So feel free to introduce yourself, say hello in the chat, and without further ado, let's get started here. So today we're going to be talking about something historically that we maybe haven't talked a lot about in the last few months, and that's going to be metrics, right? What metrics are we seeing impacting the real world? What are the metrics that people actually care about? Ones that actually have value, not just lines of code completed. Talking about things like DORA and SPACE, and not the animated little character on the show, and not the area of the sky that's up above all of us, right? Two really strong ways to track and track your progress, right? And your success within the world of AI software development. So let's get started here. So starting with the state of adoption, right? We have an independent survey here from Gartner showing widespread AI adoption, right? The 2024, or excuse me, Stack Overflow. The 2024 Stack Overflow developer survey showed 76% of developers are planning to use AI coding tools. And that's up from 70% the year before. And a strong 72% of those developers hold a favorable attitude towards these tools, right? So developers are clearly recognizing the benefits. 81% cite an increased productivity as the top benefit of these AI dev tools, followed by a speed of learning at 62% and an improving of efficiency at 58%. So in other words, a vast majority of you folks see AI assistance as a key to getting more done in less time. Now, that's not really surprising, right? We know that AI is fundamentally changing software development. And the productivity gains for using an AI code assistant for these engineering teams has been incredible, right? And that's regardless of what tool you're using, whether it's an AI code assistant or an LLM. These solutions have real value and are helping engineering teams deliver faster. And specifically at Tab9, the increase we've come to see our customers expect ranges from a 30 to 50% increase in productivity gains across the full set of tasks that constitute the SDLC. Now, Gartner is also reporting by 2028, 60% of IT operations, enterprise IT operations, will be supported by, excuse me, these AI agents. And that's up from less than 5% in late 2024. So what are the real world impacts we're seeing of these agents, right? Empirical evidence from McKinsey demonstrates profound productivity gains through AI assisted coding, right? With development speed nearly doubling and significant improvements in task reliability, especially complex work. And in a controlled study they did, writing new code was nearly 50% faster, and documenting code for, let's say, maintainability took only half the time with AI assistance. And even complex tasks saw benefits. Developers using AI were 25 to 30% more likely to complete high complexity tasks on time compared to those without AI. So these efficiency gains translate into higher throughput, right? So we're seeing faster lead times and more work completed, which is a core DORA productivity metric. And notably, code quality, right? So your bugs, your readability, your maintainability was as good or slightly better with AI assistance, right? So that's addressing the quality and maintainability concerns that a lot of folks have. So in short, AI tools delivered speed ups that outperform past advances in engineering productivity while keeping your code quality high. Excuse me. Now, I also want to mention all of the data and reports that I've pulled and gathered all this information from. All of this I am happy to send to you folks. Feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn, and I will send you a little package with everything in it. Now, let's keep going here. So one of the most important questions, whoops, actually, we're just going to skip over this guy because I've realized that one was repeated. Excuse me. So faster output isn't really the only benefit, right? Developers reported feeling happier and more fulfilled when working with AI copilots. And McKinsey's study observed that developers using generative AI were over twice as likely to report high overall happiness and fulfillment and this flow state of work. And in fact, developers reported flow and focus on meaningful work jumped from 45% without AI to an 88% with AI assistance. So by automating rote tasks or grunt work, AI tools free developers to tackle the creative challenges, the ones that they're here to actually tackle, not to write documentation. That's not what they went to school for, right? And that ultimately improves morale and reduces burnout. And this aligns specifically with SPACE framework's sort of satisfaction dimension, right? Indicating better developer well-being and work enjoyment, which can boost retention and as well performance. Now, one of the most important questions engineering leaders ask about AI is does it make developers faster, right? But does it improve code quality and maintainability? And the answer, according to recent research, is yes, right? In another McKinsey study, developers using AI code assistance had a 53% higher success rate passing unit tests, and reviewers rated their code more readable, more concise, and more maintainable, with statistically significant improvements, right? McKinsey's latest findings reinforce this as well. And AI-assisted developers using code nearly 50% faster, and they complete high-complexity tasks 25 to 30% more reliably and on schedule. And that translates directly into delivery, stability, and reduced work, right? So zooming in on maintainability, teams using AI-based code review agents saw a 50% drop in unplanned work, which is huge, right? Because AI flagged issues earlier in the process before they became production problems. And when it comes to long-term technical health, AI speeds up tasks like refactoring, documentation, test creation, helping teams ultimately reduce technical debt while accelerating delivery. So the story isn't necessarily all about speed. It's about happier developers. It's about them shipping cleaner, safer code faster, right? Now, let me move this. We have a couple of slides here. Okay. So high quality code, right, and low technical debt are crucial business outcomes, right? And they also impact stability and future velocity. Here too, AI tools are showing promise, right? The Stack Overflow 2024 survey for developers found that 62% of developers cite the amount of technical debt as their top frustration at work. And twice as many as those frustrated by any other issue, right? Technical debt is the leading cause for frustration by a country mile. Now, by aiding in code refactoring and documentation, AI assistants can help chip away at this technical debt, right? In McKinsey's experiment, AI-assisted code actually scored marginally better on maintainability and readability. indicating that these tools can improve code quality or at least prevent code quality from degrading despite the speed gains. AI can auto-generate documentation and enforce consistent patterns, right? Reducing the accumulation of hidden debt, if you will. So, for example, excuse me, AI reduced the time spent on code refactoring tasks by roughly 30%, and on writing documentation, roughly 50% in one analysis that we did. And that accelerates the maintenance activities that might otherwise be deferred, right? All of this means that teams can maintain high code quality health and avoid piling up as much debt, improving long-term maintainability. Let me see here. Question. Patrick, awesome question. Glad you are having a great experience so far with Tabnine. I will talk about the automation factor here shortly. Understand it can be a little confusing, but we will clear up any of that. Promise it is something that is worthwhile, though, so no worries there. But glad you are having a good time, and thanks for joining this call so far. So, moving forward here, let's talk about ensuring the real engineering value, right? A real engineering value comes or goes from AI, goes far beyond just productivity, right? It includes sustainable, measurable improvements that focus in quality and developer satisfaction and long-term maintainability. Always measure AI's impact, I say, across multiple dimensions, right? Productivity alone isn't enough. Focus on achieving balance, right? Ensuring productivity gains don't negatively affect code quality or developer morale, right? Prioritize metrics that align closely with your organization's strategic goals and long-term sustainability. So effective AI adoption demands careful measurement, truthfully, and avoids superficial metrics like lines of code. That doesn't really mean a whole lot, right? Instead, focus on balanced measures advocated by, let's say, DORA and SPACE, such as development frequency, cycle time, defect rates, developer satisfaction, right? This balanced approach ensures that genuine improvements in productivity and quality and developer well-being are being made. So let's talk about the best ways to track business value of an AI code assistant, right? Because it can be tricky. I remember, reading a report, maybe 6 months ago that mentioned, I found it funny, it was JetBrains IDE users and specifically the managers. And it was a survey around measuring efficiency and output, measuring at all. And I believe it was like a 40% of managers don't know if they measure. Another 20% of them don't know how to measure, right? There's a lot of gray area here because there's a lot to measure, right? And it's easy to be dazzled by big numbers, right? Like your lines of code or frequent commits. However, as engineering leaders, our goal must always, always, always focus on delivering genuine value to our customers. Vanity metrics can mislead us, encouraging teams to generate superficial gains at the expense of quality and long-term sustainability. We need metrics that capture both productivity and impact. So if you remember Goodhart's law, once a measure becomes a target, it loses its effectiveness as a measure. Instead, we should consistently pair our output metrics with quality and outcome metrics like defect rates and user satisfaction and actual completion of customer requested features. Now, It's crucial to differentiate between output, like lines of code, commit, or tasks completed, and true outcomes, defect reductions, enhanced customer satisfaction, or successful user stories delivered, right? These raw output metrics alone don't guarantee genuine value creation. Teams might write extensive code, yet deliver features users neither need nor want, right? So we should always connect our output metrics directly with or directly to meaningful business outcomes, ensuring our productivity gains translate into real world improvements. Now, talking about DORA, DORA is the DevOps research and assessment metrics. And those metrics provide excellent, reliable benchmarks for assessing software delivery performance, right? They include lead time from commit to deployment, deployment frequency, change, failure rate, and mean time to restore service. And effective AI integration should help reduce lead time. It should increase deployment frequency and at least maintain or ideally improve the change failure rate and MTTR. So regular monitoring of these metrics over an extended period of time ensures improvements are sustained and not short-term fluctuations, right? Now, using DORA effectively means monitoring your metrics consistently over time. Think months rather than days, right? So aim for steady, incremental improvements across all metrics. For instance, AI can accelerate bug fixes and streamline pull request reviews, substantially decreasing the time or lead times and enhancing your team's responsiveness, right? So regularly reviewing these metrics allows you to adjust your strategy and ensuring that your team remains agile, responsive, and aligned with best practices in the software industry. Now, the SPACE framework, slightly different. The SPACE framework reminds us that developer productivity isn't just about activity. They are people too, right? It's about satisfaction, it's about efficiency, and it's about collaboration, right? So we include metrics like ENPS, the Employee Net Promoter Score, and tracking qualitative feedback, right? This helps ensure that productivity enhancements don't negatively affect developer morale or collaboration. So keep an eye out for, subtle warning signs like decreased team interactions or increased frustration, right? It's a new tool. Any new tool, there's adoption barriers, right? Bias here. I think Tabnine doesn't have a whole lot of them. It's very, very easy to use and something that our customers reference. You can even go read a more recent case study of ours, OpenLM and Tabnine. They prefer to drop their junior devs, drop them in the deep end with Tabnine and let them sink or swim. Everyone swims because it's so easy to use and intuitive, I guess, is a good way to put it, right? So it makes focusing on the human side of developer satisfaction or developer productivity much easier and manageable because the tool itself is easy and enjoyable to use, right? So keep out for those subtle warning signs: decreased team interactions or increased frustration, right? And that might indicate underlying issues despite apparent productivity gains, right? You might be doing really well, but your team might be hating their 9 to 5, and no one wants that, right? So it's good to be able to have that insight and strategize and plan around that. So regular feedback loops helps capture developer sentiment, ensuring that these productivity improvements are sustainable and positive, right? So let's talk about Tabnine's real-world impact on productivity, quality, and the overall developer experience, right? How are we contributing to these metrics, right? And making sure that folks are successful with their implementation with Tabnine. So this slide speaks to, I think, what matters most for engineering leaders in regulated industries: trust, performance, and proof, right? Tabnine isn't just another code assistant. We're an enterprise-grade AI platform that's purpose-built for organizations where compliance, security, and control are non-negotiable, right? So let's start with the numbers. Our customers are seeing a 73% automation factor, right? Which means nearly 3/4 of their repetitive or routine coding tasks are now fully handled by AI, right? And that's real measurable AI efficiency being unlocked. With Tesco software, a global enterprise, we helped drive a 32% increase in their developer productivity, right? And that's directly tied to their ability to ship features faster without compromising quality. And they also reported an 84% lift in code quality compared to generic LLMs. And we know that code quality is where technical debt either starts or stops, right? Most impressively, we've helped teams double their test coverage, right? Which is a critical factor for engineering confidence and compliance and speed. And on the right, you'll just see a few of the enterprises trusting Tabnine, right? These aren't startups experimenting with AI, right? These are organizations like GE Healthcare and AstraZeneca, Huck Coburg, right? Safran, operating in industries where the margin for error is zero, right? Tabnine earns their trust because we deliver value or deliver AI that's context aware, controllable, and built to integrate into the full complexity of enterprise SDLC. And these teams aren't gambling on AI, they're scaling with it confidently. So this is a this is sort of a good slide because I think this, for me, usually gives aha moments for the folks who might have some confusion around our platform and how it sort of orchestrated together. Tabnine allows developers to produce noticeably more deliverables without the extra effort, right? And this is achieved by context-aware suggestions that, autocomplete boilerplate code and routine code. They let engineers focus on the unique logic of their application, right? By integrating deeply into the IDEs and supporting over 600 plus languages and frameworks and libraries. And when I say integrate into the IDEs, we support every major popular IDE, right? VS Code, Visual Studio, the entire JetBrains family, Eclipse, NeoVim. We'll meet you where you're comfortable. And we'll meet you where you're comfortable in the language that you're comfortable writing, right? So we're going to meet you where you work. We're going to save time across the wide range of tasks that constitute the SDLC. And this is going to correspond with higher velocity and throughput, right? A direct boost to the accelerate metric, right? Shorter development cycles without requiring additional headcount. So let's break down what we're looking at here because there's a lot on this slide. But I think this is what captures what makes Tabnine uniquely enterprise grade in the realm of AI software development. So at the center of this platform architecture is Tabnine's context engine. And that's the brain behind everything we do. Unlike black box models that make guesses based on outdated or generic data, they also make guesses with using data that they don't tell you, right? You don't know what data is being used. You don't know if your data is being used. Tabnine's context engine ensures that every AI interaction, whether it's generating code, reviewing it, or validating it, is grounded in your real world context. And we also provide references for every suggestion. So you can see where Tabnine's pulling context from, whether it's a remote repository, another file within your current project. You get that insight, right? It's fully transparent. So here's how that works, right? You have a multi-layered context ingestion. We're not just looking at the code in your open file. We're demonstrating, or we're drawing, from your entire workspace, right? Your Git repositories, your documentation, Jira issues, terminal outputs, knowledge base, and even architecture diagrams. Then we have some semantic and vector memory, right? And these two types of memory work together to ensure precision. So we extract relevant entities like functions, APIs, dependencies, and create a live, ever-evolving knowledge graph of your system, right? And that lets us reason about what exists and how it works together. And then we have the context prioritization and assembly. And this is really what separates us from generic tools. We don't throw everything into the LLM and just sort of hope it sorts itself out. That would be silly, right? Instead, our engine dynamically assembles a precise, enriched context package that aligns with the task at hand, whether it's a code suggestion, a test plan, or documentation. So why does that matter? Because in an enterprise environment, your code changes daily. Your architecture is layered and interconnected, and your security and compliance and performance standards are non-negotiable. So Tabnine's context engine ensures that our AI respects those boundaries. So you get speed without sacrificing trust. And at the bottom, you'll see this is where it all comes together. Tabnine's agents generate, test, document, review, fix, and soon to be edit are all powered by this real-time context. So every output is policy aligned, architecture aware, and grounded in the systems that your team actually works in. Now, the edit agent, something I want to talk about really quickly here. As most of you are probably familiar with the space, you've seen the rise of the sort of no-code, multi-step, multi-file edits, right? The prototyping that you might be familiar with in Cursor or Windsurf, right? While it's fun, it's fast, right? It's also autonomous and does things blindly. Doesn't do it with a human in the loop. So we're taking sort of the best of both worlds, right? And we're bringing that here to the edit agent. We're giving the multi-file, multi-action steps and flow. We're bringing that into Tabnine, but we're doing it in a way that's that we feel is more beneficial to the developer, a way that we've always gone about doing things, and that's with keeping a developer, a human, in the loop. While you'll have the speed of the multi-file and the multi-edit flow, you're going to be in the driver's seat, approving or denying every change in that flow. While it will be exponentially faster and used to and very similar to, I think, the flow that you might see with other competitors, it's going to keep you in the driver's seat, much more informed, and going to be exponentially more transparent. So that's coming in due time, but stay tuned, and we'll keep you posted when we find more about that and the specific timeline on when we're going to be delivering that agent. So this is how we increase the quality of AI code recommendations, right? And we do that through personalization. And there's 4 levels of context, right? We have local context, we have connection to your code base and knowledge bases. We have coaching based on your standards, and then we ultimately have the customization of underlying models as needed. So starting with the first level of context awareness, this is local code awareness. This is where all the data points that we look at, right? And there's about 15 of them. Current file, open files, current selection, imported libraries, compiler syntax errors, terminal, other project files, project metadata, Git history, conversation history, connected repos, and other sources of information, right? And that's just layer 1, right? Then you can connect to your code and knowledge bases, right? So Tabnine connects to other software development tools, right? Including any SCM tool, your code repositories like Bitbucket, GitLab, Perforce, GitHub, right? And systems like Jira, which lets AI leverage your existing work to deliver better recommendations without sacrificing privacy. And we'll show you all of these here within the demo shortly. And then the next piece here would be, of course, coaching, right? You get explicit guidance to control how Tabnine behaves. And that operates in the pull request as well as in the IDE within the terminal. So Tabnine generates code that complies with all of your standards, right? Tabnine enables customers with this coaching agent to codify their institutional knowledge. For example, accepted standards for software development, unique best practices, corporate policies into rules that can be applied in code review within the IDE or at the pull request, right? So you provide the parameters you'd like to see your code comply with via plain language, and Tabnine converts that into a set of comprehensive rules, right? So what we've just done then with this is allow you to augment your best developers, your best engineering managers' knowledge, and make it on demand for every developer in your organization who's using Tabnine, right? That's scaling code quality at a rate that we've never seen before, right? So Tabnine is going to check the code in your PR and your IDE against the set of rules and flag deviations and offer guidance and suggested edits to fix those issues, right? And that enables developers to generate code that is of higher quality, more secure, and follows your best practices and compliance at scale. We have a question here, Leon K. Does it use some kind of index of the open workspace and not only open files? Correct. Yes, it does index the open workspace and not just open files. It is a full snapshot of your entire project. Great question. Feel free to keep them coming. And of course, here, the last sort of piece of ultimate personalization is fine tuning, right? So think of really hard to read, poorly documented code like Spark, Verilog, Ada, COBOL. We have enterprises that fine tune their Tabnine model to be trained exclusively on that coding language. So that's also an option if the other three areas of personalization don't do enough, but we often find that they do. I think a good note here is that I often find in general, unless you're working with Spark, Verilog, Ada, COBOL, those really hard to read languages, truth be told, fine-tuning the juice isn't worth the squeeze unless you are in a very specific edge case. I would be cognizant about fine-tuning or anyone who tells you that you need to do it and you need to do it fast, or if you're paying for that service, right? Your code base changes daily. The second your code base changes, that's the expiration date on the fine-tuned model, right? It won't be as accurate. It won't be up to date. You'll have to fine-tune again. So if you want to fine-tune, it's awesome, but you'll have to continuously do it. And that's a laborious, resource exhaustive process. So you can use your own, you can go about that at how you see fit, but I have my own opinions. I don't think it's necessarily worth it. Now, let's talk about coaching and why that's important, right? Because any AI code assistant, even a generic one, and any LLM can generate code. It's table stakes at this point, right? But really, Tabnine is the only one that can validate code to the level of sophistication that is needed for enterprises to not push more tech debt into their production environment. And let me see here. Another question from Jan, are these guidelines customizable on a per project basis or only on an organizational level? Great question, Jan. I believe we are working on the project basis, but you can customize based on team, organization, and even individual users, right? So you could have a rule apply to an organization as a whole, an individual user, or even a specific team within that organization. So there are ways of sort of, I think, effectively managing these across your team at a larger organization. Nothing to worry about there. Hopefully that answers your question. So let's talk about the importance of coaching, right? Coaching is important because code generated by generic assistants is questionable in its security. And that could devalue AI at your org, right? This study looked at GitHub projects and Copilot generated code. It also examined GPT or ChatGPT and Codium or Windsurf, I guess. And they found that on average, 30% of code snippets generated by these tools have security weaknesses. And these security weaknesses were diverse. They related to 43 different CWEs, and 8 of those CWEs found belonging to the currently recognized top 25 CWE list. So that's a big problem, right? You can't scale code generation if you're scaling security weaknesses and technical errors and bugs. It's going to tank metrics and scores when you have to do remediation and rework. It's also going to cost you a lot of time and energy. Now, this is how we solve that for you today, right? And this should be a GIF that is working, but it's currently not because I uploaded these into StreamYard. So you're going to have to wait for the demo here to see the code review in action. But again, it's that code review agent, right? Where you can use, you can codify your institutional knowledge, right? And make it on demand for every developer within the IDE and at the pull request level, right? And once you've done that, you have a code review agent that's completely customized and fine-tuned to you in your organization. We have it come standard out of the box with a few thousand rules that we've gathered and evaluated and implemented based on software development best practices from leading voices in the space that I'm sure a lot of you folks would be familiar with, right? But we encourage everyone to customize and fine-tune this coaching agent so it's unique to your organization. Because what I joke around with is if you ask, you know, the what I can see, the 64 of us here on the call today, how to build a REST API, right, or implement something within our code base, right, we'll probably have 64 different answers. And the hard part about that is there are probably going to be 64 different answers that are all right. Okay, but the one that will pass and make it into production is the one that is specific to your organization, is the way that your organization writes REST APIs, right? So it's really taking a lot of that gray area. It's a sophisticated way to maintain code quality, ensure code quality, and do it in a scalable manner, right? Teams can systematically reduce, I like to say, that the toil of maintenance and avoiding compounding legacy problems. And nearly half a developer's time is wasted on tech debt. And as we heard earlier in this talk, that's their number one concern and pain point for developers, according to these industry reports, right? And Tabnine helps by automating these tasks. For example, one report showed that AI assistants cut refactoring time down by 30% and documentation down by 50%. That's a report that we did here at Tabnine. So by accelerating cleanup work and ensuring consistency, Tabnine enables developers to write cleaner code and pay down debt continuously, improving that long-term maintainability. Now, you also need to think about, excuse me, future-proofing your AI software development platform. And we give you complete control over your AI infrastructure to do that. That's something that's very unique to us here at Tabnine. And this is really important because many of our customers are developing their own LLMs, as we've seen with the rise of Llama and Qwen and DeepSeek. The LLMs race is far from being over. And you're going to want flexibility. You're not going to want downtime having to rework on integrations or switching gears with a new model. Or at worst, not even be able to access the new model because you're locked in with a vendor who doesn't provide it to you, right? So with Tabnine, you get that. Tabnine has deep expertise in leveraging and optimizing large language models for software development tasks and make a variety of LLMs available to our customers, right? So the flexibility here gives you really two key benefits I want you to remember. One, you can trust you will always have access to the latest and greatest models with Tabnine. In addition, Tabnine's deployment of these models across a massive array of developers and use cases means that we can provide guidance on which models are the best performing and for which use cases. You also have full control, not just over the models, but how you connect to them, right? You already have a private endpoint with the leading model provider. No worries, we can support that. You're deploying your own open source model on a platform like Bedrock, we can support that. You want to run Llama on Tabnine in your air-gapped environment, we can do that too, right? With Tabnine, you are always in complete control over your AI infrastructure, right? So total privacy, flexibility, and control is at play here. You can deploy Tabnine however you like. You can deploy us, of course, via SaaS, right? But you can also do us on-prem and VPC, and you can deploy Tabnine in a fully air-gapped environment. And for some of those folks who, maybe you've toyed around with Windsurf, maybe you've toyed around or Codium, maybe you've toyed around with SourceGraph, and those folks, they're moving away from that. Codium is not supporting on-prem deployments anymore. They're not supporting air-gapped. They're not supporting VPC, right? So with that, you don't know where your data is going in a SaaS installation, right? Also, outside of Tabnine's is completely self-contained. It's a zero data retention policy, and is built privacy forward for enterprises from the ground up. So even with our SaaS version, we're much more secure than other folks. But having that option to go on-prem or to go fully air-gapped, that's something that's now very unique to Tabnine, right? So something to just consider when moving forward. And you can have all of these, right? All of these deployments within your single company. You have multiple deployment types within Tabnine. So you have one team on SaaS, another team on air-gapped, right? Depending on the severity of the data that they're working with and the privacy that they need. So as we like to say here, any agent can write code. Ours earn your developers' trust and provide real-world value, right? We're controlled, we're grounded, and we're secured. So we all know what the issue is now with LLMs and generic AI code assistants and generic agentic AI software development. And the real issue is that they lack context and they give you generic answers and they generate more code and more tech debt. And using any of them today requires you to trade off between privacy, protection, and performance. And we don't believe you need to make that decision. With Tabnine, we eliminate the need to trade off between privacy, performance, and protection. You can get it all here at Tabnine. And the way we deliver on that is using powerful LLMs, layering on our advanced context engine for personalization, and combining that with AI agents that are fully human in the loop, right? Giving you complete control over all of their behavior and actions and keeping your engineers in the pilot seat, continuously delivering value to the organization. Because these are not your co-pilots, right? They are your agents, and they should be treated that way, and you should have complete control over them, right? So now that we have an understanding of Tabnine and the way that Tabnine's capabilities are putting you in the best position possible to leverage AI innovations for today and for years to come, let's cap this all together, right? We built Tabnine for mission critical engineering. That means much more than just suggesting code. It means being deeply integrated and accountable to your developers, tightly aligned with your organization's standards, and protective of your most sensitive IP. So we're controlled, right? With Tabnine, engineers stay in control. Our platform provides full visibility into every suggestion. It's backed by references, explanations, and validation against your standards. Nothing ships without human approval. This isn't black box AI. This is transparent, explainable AI that engineers trust and subsequently adopt. It's grounded, right? Tabnine doesn't just understand your programming. It understands your code base, your architecture, your guardrails, right? It runs inside your environment, adapts to your coding practices, and follows your policies with real-time context and enforcement. And this is an AI that's trained to think like your team, or this is, AI that's trained to think like your team, not a generic model guessing from the outside in. And then the last piece here is it's secured. It protects your sensitive IP, right? Most importantly, Tabnine protects what matters most, your code and your data. Our solution runs fully within your perimeter. whether that's on-prem, air-gapped, or in a VPC. There's no external calls, no third-party inference, just total control over your intellectual property, zero exposure to shadow AI risk as well. This is what Tabnine, or this is what enterprise grade AI looks like, right? There's no need to eliminate the trade-off between privacy and performance protection. You can get it all here. Again, these are not your co-pilots. They are your agents built for engineering teams where trust and value isn't optional. It's mission critical. And just to say, this is not us tooting our own horn here. We've been recognized by leading analyst firms, and we're starting to be, as we know, this is the springtime, so these reports are coming out again now this year, and it's the same song and dance. We're continuously, again this year, being reported as and recognized as leaders within this space, right? The first one having just come out as of this past week, OMDIA, they named us a leader in their low, no pro code IDE AI assistance, right? And in Gartner last year, we were ranked first for 3 use cases, and we ranked a very close second for the other 2 of the 5 use cases, as well as being top ranked by Everest Group. So without further ado, let's jump into the demo that I'm sure you all came here to see. So give me a second here to move some stuff around. Okie dokie. So let me pull up this IDE. Thanks for bearing with me again today. As you can tell, as I was last week, a little under the weather, still getting over a small cold here, but appreciate folks being patient with my coughing and sniffling. Let's see here. One question came in. We have adopted Tabnine for a couple of months and would help to tap the maximum benefits out of it. It would be great if you have a detailed documentation on leveraging Tabnine SDLC from Jira card creation with a clear acceptance criteria, test case creation, development based on tests. Okay. On monitoring and generating reports of all these activities. Siju, I hope I said that correctly. Apologies if I pronounced your name incorrectly there. Our documentation does have a lot of this outlined. We also have go over this sort of bits and pieces of this on a weekly basis during these demos here. But I can send you some extra material as well as find out who your customer success manager is and work with them to get you some better information to make sure you're having the most success possible. But glad to hear that you've adopted it, and seemingly it seems to be going well for you. Alrighty. So for this next section, I will say that my StreamYard window is going to be on a different screen here. So if questions do come up, I'll do my best to take periodic breaks and jump back and try and answer them. But let's jump in here. So I am in VS Code, right? When you have Tabnine downloaded, you'll see it here on the left-hand side of your IDE. But again, we are nice. We support any IDE, right? All of the most popular ones, JetBrains, the entire family, Visual Studio, VS Code, of course, NeoVim, Eclipse, the list goes on. And you can find those other supported IDEs within our documentation. Now, clicking on this Tabnine logo is going to open up Tabnine AI Chat. This is where a lot of magic happens. Starting at the top, as a user of Tabnine, this is where I can select one of the provisioned models that my administrator has set to me, right? As an admin, you get to determine which models are available to your team, right? So you have complete control over the third-party LLMs that your organization is using. In this case, I'm going to be sticking with Claude 3.7 today. It's a personal favorite of mine. here within the IDE, or at least for software development. Now, below that, you're going to find a query bar, right? You can use this area to type in prompts, ask questions, right? Receive suggestions and answers, but do it using everyday conversational natural language, right? You can get more specific by using @mentions to reference specific classes, functions, or files. You can use the / to access different agents as well. So these top 5 ones come standard with Tabnine out of the box. These are purpose-built agents that we created to do the heavy lifting out of the prompt engineering for you. These other ones are ones that I created myself, which I will show you how to do here later in the demo. Those are called our custom commands, right? A way for you yourself to take the heavy lifting out of prompt engineering that you find yourself doing on a day-to-day basis. Now, below that, you have your context scope, right? So this allows for a developer on a query by query basis to determine their scope, right, of their questions. So you can use current file, local IDE workspace, remote code-based repositories. You can even use terminal, and then we can even get very specific and reference files, folders, and repos that are remote and connected into Tabnine. And again, that can be Perforce, it can be GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub, doesn't matter, any SCM tool. Now, moving into the, whoops, I actually got ahead of myself. It's a handful of other 2 little areas right here. First being image as context, right? You can use images as context within Tabnine to help you get to your goal, right? Or complete your task at hand. Think ER diagrams turning into Postgres schema, bug hunting, right? With finding your marketing team circles something on the website or your product and says, hey, this is broken, it's not working. They send you over that screenshot and submit a ticket, right? In Jira, you can use that screenshot as context and say, hey, where is this? And Tabnine will bring you exactly to that piece of code and help you fix it, right? To make sure that you don't have it spitting any errors or not working. You can also use Tabnine for example, UI mockups, right? Your design team has just created a new area of the application. You can feed those mockups into Tabnine and use that as context as well to help not only generate that new design, but generate it in a way that matches your organization's policies, standards, and guidelines, right? It's scalable. Now, the last piece here within this query bar would be our Jira agent, right? This allows you to implement and validate Jira tickets, right, that have been signed to me as a user. And we'll get into that here shortly. Now, to the right of chat, you're going to see our test agent, right? And this allows you to generate comprehensive test plans for Tabnine or using Tabnine, right? You can either reiterate on existing test plans. It will use your existing test cases as context to create new ones that are outside of your current scope, or you can create a test plan from scratch and then ultimately reiterate on that, getting you to full code coverage or full test coverage. Now, let's jump over here. With Tabnine, we also have code completions. Heck, that is where we started, right? And we were also known as Cadota at the time, right? So as you're typing, Tabnine is going to, I think in this case, it doesn't really want me to write another rule, which is funny. Oh, perfect. Okay. So it realizes that I'm here and that I am most likely going to enter another rule number 17. God bless anyone who has to follow them, right? But the important thing here is that Tabnine recognizes your intent, right, as you're typing. If you are typing, in this case, another rule, it's going to provide you maybe rule number 17, right? If you are typing documentation, it's going to provide helpful suggestions to help complete that documentation faster. Same for testing, same for implementing a REST API, so on and so forth, right? Tabnine is aware of what you're doing and will intelligently help by providing recommendations or suggestions as you type, right? But that's table stakes at this point. That's also where we started. The next piece you'll see is at the top of each block of code, you'll have our Tabnine, we call it the code lens, right? So a quick way to access those same edits or same agents you saw in chat, but more in the developer flow, right? So edit, test, explain, fix, document, code. Now, any of these will be applicable only to this specific block. It's not going to do the entire project, but you can see here each block of code has one of these code lens hovering above it. Now, the last piece or form factor you'll find in Tabnine is this quick commands dropdown. Now that's initialized by Command I on a Mac. If you are a JetBrains user, do not worry, you can remap your key bindings so you won't have any issues there. You can still access this, but again, same way, in this time, not having to have your hands leave the keyboard, you can access the query bar, right? Provide instructions, use code mentions, the same functionality you get down here. You can also reference our agents, right? So fix code, document, explain, code explore. You can determine your scope as well as change your model, right? If you want to change your model from up top, you have the ability to do that here as well. Maybe it's specific for this query. So let's go through a standard phase, right? A usual cycle, I should say, for a software developer, right? Going through each phase of the SDLC. In this case, we're going to start with plan, right? So for a developer in the planning stage, right, it's very, very important, it's crucial to gain an understanding of the project, what the application does, etc., the code base that you're working with. So let's start by running the code explore agent. Well, actually, you know what? We're gonna shift gears. I'll show the code explore agent here, but we're actually gonna move back to a different project. So what it does is it will generate a high-level overview. It'll explain what it does, the project structure, how to get started, key features, and then it's also going to provide a handful of follow-up questions, right? Allowing you as a developer to dive deeper into the specific task at hand, right? What are the main dependencies required to run this project, and how can I manage them using Maven? Great, so it'll give us more information. It also, Tabnine doesn't just provide code suggestions, it also provides runnable scripts, right? So it'll help you update your dependencies and get up to speed so you can get to a point where you can start contributing as a developer. And then, as I said earlier, it's going to give you references for everything. So it's going to explain where it's pulling this information from. It's not hallucinating. Now, we do have, let's just shift over here. So we'll run that code explore again. Okay, looks like we're in a fraud detection dashboard project. Here's the overview. Here's how I can get started. Here are my key directories, and here are my common tasks. Okay, so again, we have an idea of what this project is, right? How it works. Now, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, right, you can use code explain. Code explore project wide. Code explain file is the biggest scope, right? So it's great for getting a little bit more in the weeds and learning more about a specific area of code that might be confusing, right? So it's going to explain the specific component to me now. It's going to tell me the structure of the component, the UI, the table implementation, how it's rendered, right? Ultimately, now getting me to a point where I am an informed, fully onboarded developer, and I'm ready to start contributing and chipping away at my tickets. Now, let's start creating, right? And you know what? Before I get to that, let me show one other thing. So let's say that I a different use case. I just leave a sprint meeting, right? I have a talk with my team. My boss says, "Hey, we're refactoring old code, right? We're modernizing an application." I'm familiar with my current code base, but I don't know the new project. I know another team has started work, right? But I'm unfamiliar with their work. So what you can do is you can learn about other remote projects, right, as part of your onboarding. And how do you do that? We'll keep code-based connection on, and we're going to say explain hashtag. Let's pick the cars telemetry. So let's say that I'm refactoring this project here into a new language where I'm implementing some new sort of technology. I can also have it explain and onboard me onto external repos, right, that are just connected in the Tabnine. So I can see what my other teams are doing without having to go to their GitHub profile, and then I can confidently pull in that code, right, without having to reduce or create more tech debt. They might have a service that they're creating within this project that I can use within mine, right? And allowing you to query that repo remotely reduces the time the developers take to go learn it and reduces the tech debt, right? Because they're not going to push things that are already made, right? They're going to use what's already there. And you can clearly see here, not hallucinating, it is showing remote examples from that repository, right? That's where it's pulling that context from. So let's keep moving forward here. Let's add something new, right? We know this is a fraud detection dashboard. Let's just see what we're, whoops. It's a great question. Actually, say, how can I run this project? Let's start running it. Let's see where we sit before we start. Yeah, it should be an npm run dev. Okay, well, all right. We're running into some issues. That's totally fine. Let's just keep away with chipping away at these tickets. So we are going to go use our Jira implementation agent, right? And then we're going to validate that these tickets actually are implemented correctly. So let's jump over to our Jira board, and there's a couple things I want to call out first. For starters, there's 60 tickets in the to-do, specifically 16 to me. Clearly, I haven't made a whole lot of progress. My team must not be super pleased with the performance here, but we have 16 tickets in my to-do list. Now, what's important to note that when I'm in here within Tabnine, I'm only going to see 2. Why is that? Right? 60 total, 16 for me, but I'm only seeing 2. Tabnine's only going to show the tickets that have been active within the last 30 days and that have been assigned to you as a developer, right? So what we can do is then pick one of these tickets. We'll say, let's do V4, say explain, we'll just do implement, actually. Implement this ticket. Now what Tabnine is going to do is it's going to read the acceptance criteria. It is going to read the ticket description. It's going to take in my custom behavior, and then it's going to generate a response for me, right? Now, first, you'll see that it's generating a test. My custom behavior set says, or tells Tabnine to follow TDD, right? So when you're generating a big piece of code like this, that's a new suggestion, have a test that goes in first, right? So we'll click apply, and what that does, apply inserts this code exactly where it should be in Tabnine. Dashboard.test was not the open file on my my project. It was dashboard, right? But this apply button, very, very small, but very powerful. Insert your code exactly where it should be in the file it should be in, regardless of cursor location or open file. So we'll hit accept, and then we'll keep moving forward. Now we'll also have to add the new color scheme. So let's click apply. She has taken her sweet time. Perfect. Now let's update this top nav bar. We'll click apply as well. Awesome. Changing the color. Everything seems to be good there. Now they've made the following changes. These changes satisfy the acceptance criteria. Now, what you can do is, I believe there might be maybe something else here. Let me see. V4. Let's just do validate this ticket. And we can check the references as well. Awesome. So it's not just referencing my current app, but it's also referencing remote examples on how I, as an organization, my company writes code, right? So it's pulling in context from my entire code base to make sure that it's correct, right? And in line with how my organization writes. So we can see here, I've reviewed the current state of the code and it's been successfully implemented. Let's validate this criteria. Awesome. Conclusion, everything meets the acceptance criteria. Only remaining task is to update the JS docs comments to reflect the new color scheme, which they've provided above. Perfect. It's all we can ask for, right? Now, if something was, let's say, wrong, right, you could use the fix functionality to find those errors and fix the errors in your code. And we'll show sort of what that looks like fixing something here when we get into the code review agent, right? After we find something that might not meet our criteria of what we want to push into production, we can use the fix agent in conjunction with terminal as scope to help immediately rectify those issues and deliver a very clean PR to my code reviewer. So let's keep moving forward and let's go through the testing agent, right? So we're going to jump back in here to my password generator application, and let's go here. Yeah. So Tabnine, the test agent. There's two ways you can go about doing it, right? You can start from scratch, right? Doing oh, sorry, here I see a couple comments here. Can I please increase the font size? You bet. Sorry that I did not see this. Where's Zoom? Zoom. Give me a second here. Hopefully this is a little bit easier to see now, Iwa. And hopefully, Rexlow, you can see the screen better now as far as the quality of the stream here. If you do have any more issues, I'll check back in the chat here in a few minutes to make sure that this is okay. So let's keep moving forward here. So yeah, we have the test agent, right? And there's sort of two ways to go about doing it from scratch and doing it from, or using it based on a test file that you already have created. Now, the flow is exactly the same. One will just start with generating you a template, right? Your imports at the top, but they will all sort of go through the same flow. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start from a pre-existing test file. Because we find a lot of enterprises that we work with, it's not that they don't have testing or they don't implement testing, right? It's doing it at a level that is acceptable, is challenging, at a level that it's actually providing value is challenging, right? And we often find that a lot of our customers aren't going from 0 to 1, right? They're not starting from ground zero. They're going from 1001 to 1002, right? Or 1003. So we'll start from a pre-existing test file, right? So step one is we'll generate test plan for code. It's going to prompt us to select the code that we want to test. So we'll do this generator code here. And we'll click continue. If you don't have a test file, you would click I don't have one. If you do, you click this option and we'll hit we'll hit browse. Now we'll do generator test.java and we'll hit OK. Now what Tabnine's doing is it's generating a comprehensive test plan for me. But you're going to notice something special at the bottom, right? It's going to factor in and take in my pre-existing tests that are already there as context. And it's going to use those to generate new tests that are outside of that current scope, right? So it's going to be separate from what I'm currently testing for. Now, when it comes to adding these, it's very simple. You'll click the test itself, the plain English description. It'll generate the code for the test for you. You can then apply that test code directly into your test file, exactly where you see fit. Perfect. And then you can go through each of these tests, right? Picking and choosing the ones that you see fit, that you want to add into your file. You can also customize each one, right? Change from testing option 2 to testing option, just do to option 3. I think I actually might have hit the wrong button, but it understood what I was trying to do here. And now we can, again, implement this test within our file and keep moving forward, right? Now it's the same song and dance. You want to reiterate and do it again. Now we've added more tests into this. We can go back through, select the code. We can reiterate again, right? I have a new test file, generate another test plan for code, and it's going to generate another batch of tests outside of what I've currently been testing for in this file, recognizing all of my existing tests, and then again, generating new tests that aren't in my current project, right? Ultimately allowing folks or helping folks getting to that full test coverage or full code coverage target that is sometimes feels just impossible, right? This is exponentially better method, in my opinion, of testing while still keeping it personal, right? I do like to think that testing can be somewhat of a personal process or experience, right? Now, the next piece we're going to go through here is documentation. Now let's jump over. Let's see, do I have anything in here that we can? Seemingly all this stuff seems to be documented pretty well. Oh, perfect. All right. So you can generate documentation a handful of ways, right? Using the code lens, you can click document. Tabnine will generate documentation just off of off of that initial code lens button push, right? You can view the suggested changes and ultimately accept, assuming that it falls in line with how your organization likes to write or how you prefer to write these documentation. Now, you can also generate docs from the Tabnine's AI chat, right? We can reference, let's say, let's do our agent, say document code. We can select this entire section and we can document code for here, right? For this entire page. And it's going to do it in GoDoc style documentation, right? And now this is a sort of a fast way to go through an entire file within your project and generate docs for, right? But again, just only one way to do it. Now, I've also had some fun over here. Let's jump into this project, and you can use, let's say, custom commands to generate documentation. Let me find something here that hasn't been documented. All right, perfect. Let's use this block of code. Now, let's say my team has a should have a markdown file in here. Well, seemingly my file has disappeared. Well, what I was going to say is you can add custom commands, right? So we can say, let's say we have a markdown file that has guidelines for documentation generation. This one, I believe, might not. Huh. All right. Well, seemingly all my pages have disappeared with that markdown file. But to give you an idea, you can create, let's say, a markdown file with outlines, guidelines on how your team writes documentation, right? How you should be writing documentation. You can create specific custom commands in Tabnine, per se, to reference those documentations, right, when you're generating docs. So, for example, reference the Java documentation guidelines for proper docs and create new documentation for the selected code based on the format in that markdown file, right? So just another way to generate documentations. It's really where you feel comfortable as a developer. And I think that's one of the bigger pieces of Tabnine as a whole. One of the strengths that we provide or unique value props is that freedom and flexibility, right? When it comes to the architecture, right? You can deploy Tabnine how you want to deploy Tabnine, use the models you want to use within Tabnine. You have complete control, right? You have the freedom to use different models, to use different agents as you see fit, whether it's in the actual project or within chat or with never leaving your hands off the keyboard, right? It's that freedom and flexibility that we give every developer, which I think is incredibly powerful. Now, we let's see here. The next piece we'll go over is maintaining. So we've created code, we've documented code, we've tested code, right? The next piece we're going to do is maintenance, right? Or in this case, we'll do like maintenance and refactoring. Actually, let's have some fun here. All right. So I have this. Let's go back to that team meeting scenario, right? I'm in a team meeting. I am tasked with refactoring and modernizing, in this case, this old application, right? So let's just start by asking Tabnine, what version of Java is this project written in? Java 11. Great. This is an old boy. So I know from my meeting that we have to use we're modernizing this app, right? And I know another team's already started work on this. Problem is, I don't know the language that we're supposed to be going in. I've never really worked with it before. My boss wants me to go to migrate this or modernize this into a Golang application, and they want me to use this project called Bubble Tea, right? I don't know how to work with it, right? So how do I still get my work done without spending all day reading documentation and understanding how the project works, right? How can I use my other team's context, what they've already done, to help fuel my work, right? So what we can do here is we understand this is Java 11 now. All right, let's say, let's go in and let's ask about their project that I know they're working on. So let's say explain. I know they're working on this bubble tea project. Because I know this team has a project they're working on, right? But I don't really understand what they're using. Okay, so they're using bubble tea. It's a Go library. This makes sense with what my boss told me. It's a TUI. Okay, and here are the core concepts and the basic structure. Awesome. It's even going to give me key features and common bubbles or components, right? Now, what I can do is, let's say, modernize at main dot, oops. Generator. Let's modernize some of these project files. Let's start pushing this project into its new program or language. We'll do generator source.main, and let's add a few more. We'll do password. And alphabet, because those are the main 4 files that make up this Java application. Use bubble tea. So now what Tabnine is going to do is it's going to work on converting, right, my Java 11 password generator into a brand spanking new Go Java password generator in Go using the bubble tea framework, right? And now we have this alphabet file. We have the password.go. We have generator.go. And last but not least will be main.go. And now I know what folks are wondering here. Great. But does it work? Does it actually generate code that's usable and will run? And the answer is yes. Yes, it does. If I go, we'll let this keep working here. Back in here. And let's run. This is that same project that I had in Java 11 that I converted here into a bubble tea project, right? Yes, no, yes, no. 25. Great. Now it looks exponentially better, and it's now fully modernized into the language that my boss wants me to put this project into, my company as a whole wants me to migrate this project into. And truthfully, it took me an extra 5 minutes after this point to create the new project and add the new files, right? So the idea of being able to rapidly modernize using existing code bases, right? Very much achievable and done in record-breaking time here using Tabnine. Now, the last piece that we're really going to cover today is our rules engine, right? And we talked about this earlier in the session here. Is our coaching, right? So tab 9, there is our sort of the concept of coaching, and that's what we're looking at here. And then that coaching gets implemented, right, or enforced via our code review agent. Now, tab 9 comes preloaded with a few thousand rules, right? And these buckets aren't indicative of everything that is in here, but it comes preloaded with a few thousand rules that we've gathered and evaluated from leading voices in the software development space, right? Folks that you all are very familiar with, I am sure of, but cannot explicitly say. Now, this rule set, again, comes preloaded with these rules, but we encourage everyone to fine tune, right? And add their own rules. How do you do that? You can import custom rules here from a CSV file. You can also send us an Excel spreadsheet, right, with simple file, like in plain English written in. You can point tab 9 to a golden repo, we call it, right, where you have your best code being written, it's most well-maintained, right, best documentation. It is your gold standard as an org internally for how you should write code. You can point tab 9 to that repository. We can extract a rule set from it and then ultimately create good and bad rules or good and bad examples for that rule, as well as an ID and a severity, right? So all you need to do is provide the description or point us into a golden repo, if you will. Now, to others' points or questions we had earlier in this demo or session of office hours, if you will, all of these rules, are fully customizable, right? It's an ever living, breathing area of your product. 2, you can assign these at an organization level, at a team level, or at a user level, right? Now, let me think here. Moving into the IDE, right? What does this actually look like? Let's go. Yeah, we'll go here. We'll do another one of these guys. Let's say tab 9 review repository. Hey yo. Okay. Sweet. We love when this happens. Let me see, tab 9. Bingo. There we go. Thought it had me there for a second. Okay, so tab 9 review repository is the terminal command. Now, what it's doing when as a developer, right, I've just completed a bunch of work in my project. Pre-commit, right? Pre-sending this out for code review. I want to know how I've done. I want to know if what I'm going to push is going to be in line with my organization's standards, policies, compliance, best practices, right? So I'd say tab 9 review repository, I'm going to send all of this out for code review. And it's going to compare everything in here since my last commit against that big set of rules here in this engine. And then it's going to highlight any deviations, flag anything that needs to be fixed. and provide the suggestions to help me rectify that. Now, what I will do here is say Tabnine, review report, -- last. And now I have a full report of every issue that's going to be a violation of my organizational policies, my compliance, my governance here, my best practices at Tabnine. And it will show me the violation, the description, the ID that it's breaking, the code to insert. And then I can even take it a step further, and I can say terminal as context and say, based on the code review within the terminal, help me fix these issues. And you can see it's just used that sort of flash. It's seen the terminal now as context, and now it's going to go through and it's going to fix each of these issues that it spotted here within review. Ultimately, I can then go in and apply these, push this new code with the assumption that it should be a very, very, very clean PR for my my code reviewer, right? It should not take him a whole lot of time or her a whole lot of time to review, and ultimately won't be a bottleneck, because that's one of the interesting things we saw here at Tabnine internally, and one of the leading reasons for us creating the code review and validation agent, right, is that folks were becoming so incredibly productive with code generation that their code reviewers were becoming the bottlenecks, right? Code review is then ultimately, when things become a bottleneck and then become overloaded, as we all know, the level of scrutiny and time and effort that an individual might give to each review might be not be at that level that we're looking for, right? It more often than not is not. Even when they do have the time, being able to do a very sophisticated, in-depth, in the weeds code review takes time, and folks will often bypass it. Now, as a code reviewer, what does this look like, right? When I'm on that side of the house, here I have an old PR from a SE here internally, Josh, and we are working with a car's telemetry service, right? Now, Josh has submitted a PR to me, and I can go through and I can see, as the code reviewer, all the issues. I can see the file in question, the specific code block that's being, that's generating the violation. Okay, it's a critical error, and then my to-do. And that's for each one of these. I can also then commit the suggestion if need be, have conversations with Josh about this issue within the PR, right? And then ultimately there is a PR report here that's a quick high-level summary of what went on. Now, this is a short PR, so 3 functions within 4 files, not big, right? But when you have something that's a very big push, these PR tables are quite helpful. Now, I believe that is sort of it on my agenda. I am happy to answer any questions or go back and show anything in particular that folks might have wanted to see that we did not get a chance to talk about. When it comes to not best practices, I should say custom commands, I think that was something that someone might have brought up earlier. The settings section of Tabnine is where you'll find all of that. Now, I joke around, settings inherently aren't the sexiest parts of products. Unless you're at Tabnine and you're with me with my opinion, I think our settings section holds some of the greatest pieces of Tabnine, right? Some of the coolest functionality. Let's start off small, response length, right? Being able to determine if you want it to be comprehensive or concise. Today, I've been working in a comprehensive mode. So you're seeing a lot more explanations and guidance when it comes to suggestions. But I treat every day as a school day, so that works out very well for me. If you're a principal engineer or an architect, you're very familiar with the systems you're working in, concise might be an awesome option for you. It's just going to save you a little bit more time. Now, custom chat behaviors below that is one of my favorite areas of Tabnine. And I say that every week, so no one knows I'm fibbing here. This is a way to, at a high level, completely change how Tabnine is going to be interacting with you. Fundamentally change how Tabnine interacts with you on a daily basis. So simple things like refer to you by your name or whatever name you would like to have Tabnine call you. Then we can get a little bit more detailed and tricky, right? Follow dry and solid principles. Follow TDD, which we saw often here today. When I was generating new code, Tabnine would generate tests before it got to me generating that code, right? Following TDD. Adding logging statements when it's appropriate, adding logging entry and exit statements. Sort of the list goes on, right? But you can get technical behaviors out of chat like these. You can also localize Tabnine chat through custom behaviors. Respond in Marathi, respond in Chinese, respond in German, right? English and non-English characters are both able to be are both available here or work within Tabnine, right? And you can determine that here within custom chat behaviors. Now, the last piece here within settings that we'll talk about is custom commands. The only limit of custom commands is, the 70 of you folks on this call is your imaginations, right? I've yet to find a command that I can't, like something I can't do with a command. I should say is a good way of putting it. It's really up to your own creativity. To give you an example, right? Maybe get the juices flowing here. We showed the one from creating docs from a template, right? There's another good one that I don't have, I think, on this application. Maybe it's in this file. For creating a README, right? So summarize the project in copy and create a README file in the project, right? That's an easy one. Then we look at things that are slightly more complex, right? And I think of like the coolest example I've ever seen of a custom command is one of our customers has a so they have to test about 1,000 different tests for a component. They're a hardware manufacturer, right? So they're producing a new piece of hardware. They have to run that hardware through, that's called 1,000 tests, right? So they have a template file for their testing that has these 1,000 tests there, right? What they've engineered Tabnine to do is create a custom command that one creates a new test file, right? Named after this piece of hardware, the selected piece of hardware. Step two is it looks at the test template file, and it will take all of those tests in that template file and write new ones, but for this hardware, right? So we're talking 1,000 tests that are being generated that are contextually accurate using the same template and file that they use across their org, being done in a minute rather than hours. It's really cool things like that, right? That I encourage you folks to maybe use that example as food for thought and to noodle yourselves and think of what are the things you find yourself prompt engineering on a daily basis that you could create custom commands for. And then you can then share those custom commands out with your team members, right? So something like someone asked a question on best practices for creating Jira ticket info. Well, I struggled myself with that same question, right? How do I ensure consistent descriptions, consistent acceptance criteria, and accuracy, right? So I'd have these ideas come to me, and I'd have a conversation in Tabnine, and it would talk about an improvement that I could make, and I'd say, "Oh wow, it's a really good one. Let's create a Jira ticket from that," right? So for the selected code, add a description of what it does or what it does wrong, acceptance criteria for the ticket, and all other relevant info needed for Jira tickets. In this case, I kept it a little bit general, right? But when I do have, let's say, a suggestion that I like, I can run that command and it'll generate everything I need to put it back into my ticketing system. Tabnine can't create the actual ticket in Jira for you yet, but it can create you all of the acceptance criteria and description and things that you need to put into that Jira ticket to then ultimately feed back into Tabnine. So in that sense, it's pretty cool. So with that, I encourage you folks to really think about what you're prompt engineering on a daily basis, what's causing you a lot of time, what's taking a lot of effort, or subsequently what might be frustrating you. And let's try and find ways to prompt engineer that and make custom commands that take the heavy lifting out of it. Now, I believe that is it for today as far as my schedule of what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes here, and if there are any other questions or comments, anything that I didn't show that you guys want to see, please feel free to drop them here in the chat, in the comment section here, and I'll answer them. But if not, thank you again. This has been an awesome session. As you all know, I say it every week. I love doing this. This is my favorite part of the job. So ask as many questions as you have. I'll happily answer them all. So we'll say while we are waiting here, if there's any for any other questions to come in. Does Tabnine have UI for business users? Sorry, I do see that now. Great question. A good answer would be it's coming sometime here soon. The UI for business users. So that's all I will say there on that one. But let me take a pending on that. Siju will be in cahoots. Sorry for being vague there, but it's just the nature of the beast. I can't share all the information, but I can share that that's something that fills that need will be in the pipeline. High level on timeline, I would think this year. Maybe don't want to put a number on it, but sometime this year. Very, very exciting and something that I've seen and I'm very excited about as well. Now, let's see here. While we are waiting for any further questions, I'll just cover some best practices real quick while I have you guys here. Garbage in, garbage out. With AI, it's more like vague in, chaos out, right? So be very specific when you're speaking to AI, right? Because sometimes I know it can feel like we need a translator, right? It's very incredibly important to be very clear with your language, and that helps generate more specific responses. Write a function, for example, verse, write a function to encrypt a password using bytecrypt and validate the encryption, right? That's something that's exponentially more specific, right? Start new conversations for each task. Don't be that person who tries to explain 5 different bugs in one conversation. We all know how that goes in stand-up meetings. Start a new conversation when working on a new task or a problem domain, right? AI is like your brain. It can only handle so much, right? So every time you have a new context problem or a new problem domain, right? Things like, I want to improve the security of my password generator. Well, you might stay in a conversation for the length of that goal, right? Or that problem domain until it's fixed. And then you'll move on to the next one of, adding documentation, right? And working through that. Now, remember, when using AI, context is king, queen, the entire royal family. So without context, you can't make use of Tabnine's retrieval augmented generation. So you get raw LLM responses. And remember, an LLM alone is like a new team member who's brilliant, but hasn't learned your code base yet. So the more context you give it, the less likely it is to suggest something that'll make your senior engineers spit out their coffee in horror, right? And I see we have another one here. Question coming through from Jan. We want to evaluate Tabnine's performance in a project which is redevelopment of a legacy tool. The legacy code base is different, programming language, complex, and in bad quality. I have 2 questions. Could you suggest a Tabnine supported workflow which gets us around the reverse engineering of the legacy tool? Any recommendations on measuring the impact of AI assistance on the process when there's no performance reference before AI? Oh man, this is a good question. It's a really good question. Let me think here. Let's take Tabnine. So you have a legacy code base, different programming, complex, bad quality, and you need to modernize it. To be quite frank, uploading that code base into Tabnine, and using the explain code, using the fix code, and refactoring and modernizing terminology within chat, knowing that you know where you want to go. Or heck, you can even ask Tabnine, hey, I have this project. It's written in this language. I need to move or migrate or modernize into something that's more manageable, right? Something that's more recent, right? Using the combination of our agents, Tabnine excels at refactoring and modernizing old legacy code base without the need of having to reverse engineer. Simply asking it prompts like you saw with me on the Java application here. Let me see. You can use Tabnine to, this is poorly written Java 11 code. I can say it's poorly written because I'm the one that wrote it. You're able to use Tabnine, for example, to modernize those legacy tools. So I think whether it's if you have a current project that you've used prior, you can upload that into your actual environment to modernize your code base, right? So you can upload that into your Tabnine instance, like a Bitbucket external repo. You can reference that repo as you're modernizing your legacy code base as well to help you sort of refine it. But it is a big can of worms, right? Jan, I'm happy to take this with you offline. Let me send you a detailed sort of recommended workflow and some other recommendations on measuring the impact of the assistance. Leon K, how effective is it with big IAC code bases, specifically AWS CloudFormation and DSL in general, in terms of code base or code generation refactoring? I would say it's pretty effective. We've had a lot of success with customers doing just that. I think it's a little bit subject to what you're working with specifically, but we have IAC code bases with our customers, specifically AWS Cloud Formations, and they have no issues with generation and refactoring. So encourage you to just give it a shot. And with that, I know we are at almost 2 hours here, which is a long session. So thank you everyone for joining. The folks who have stayed here the full 2 hours, appreciate ya. We will not be doing one, I believe, next week. We are going to be at NDC conference in Oslo in Norway. So if you are there, stop by booth 25, I believe, and say hello. But with that said, thank you all for joining today. It was a pleasure. I appreciate everyone's questions, and we will see you here in about a week or two.